Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie. I'm so happy that you are here. So I'm a blogger and a serial entrepreneur. I started my online career in 2009 when my husband and I built Catch My Party. Go check it out because we just posted some awesome classroom Valentines for your kids to take to school. Then in 2016, David and I launched MiloTree, which is our pop-up app that many of you use, and you can grow your social media followers on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, YouTube, and your email subscribers. And now we've launched MiloTreeCart, which is the easiest way for you bloggers and creators to sell digital products to your audiences. This way, you don't have to spend a ton of time hooking together complicated tech solutions. Just use MiloTreeCart and then spend all of that time serving your audience, building products. And in fact, if you have a blogging community or you have an audience of people who could really benefit from MiloTreeCart, please join our affiliate program. Go to MiloTreeCart.com, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see a link that says affiliate program. And you can use this affiliate program both for MiloTreeCart and for our MiloTree pop-up. We pay $100 per sale for MiloTreeCart and $25 for our MiloTree pop-up app. If you want to reach out to me to come up with a way to strategize, or if you'd like me to come into your group, I'd be happy to do that. You can reach me at Jillian@MiloTree.com. Now, for today's episode, I have Allie Grummert on the show. She is an email expert. She helps bloggers, coaches, and creators set up their email sequences. And she's worked with some of the biggest food bloggers out there. She knows what she's talking about. We get into the specifics of what kinds of emails you might want to be sending to your list so that they can get to know you, understand the value you provide, and take that relationship to a deeper level. I think you're going to want to have your notes app open while you listen because I think there are a lot of great gems in the episode. So without further delay, here is my interview with Allie Grummert. Allie, welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast.
Hi, so excited to be here. I've listened to so many episodes. I'm excited to chat.
Oh, great. Now you are an email expert. So what does that mean? What do you do? Can you share how you got to be where you are?
Yeah, so I specialize in email marketing, specifically welcome and nurture sequences. So automated sequences for bloggers. The idea being that as a blogger, you have so much valuable content to share with someone. They're usually coming looking for something. So how can we share the content you have, answer the questions that your new subscribers have, really build them into the fold of your brand, your community, make them raving fans, share super valuable content.
So wait. Before you go on, what is the difference between a welcome sequence and a nurture sequence?
Yeah, so I just classify those slightly different, being that I want, as you build out your automation, I want it to be able to move and grow with you. So the idea that a welcome sequence is really more that it captures your brand in a really clean and succinct way so that no matter where someone comes from, whether they bought a product off your website or they found you through a summit, however they're joining your email list, they get this introduction to your brand that's just super clear. So it's not like creating a different welcome sequence for each different opt-in, like, my goodness, no, that's too much work. But really, it's cool because when you really do the hard work of figuring out what your brand is and what you offer for people, how you're going to solve their problems and where you want to send them, like that's what your welcome sequence is. And it's really powerful because it makes it really clear who you're there to serve and maybe who you're there not to serve. And those people will bounce, right?
And how many emails? How many emails for a welcome sequence?
If you're just getting started, you can just do one email. Just make it really clear. Yeah. But I would say as you get more content and as you have more things to share, like your story, or you have freebies that you want to make sure they have, or you have a store, or you have top recipes you want to share, that I have mine expand as far as 3 to 5 emails. But I would say if you're just getting started, just write one. Even if you're not sure of your niche, just say, this is who I am. This is what I hope to do for you. And then with time, you can always go and expand on that.
All right, let's do this. In this first email, let's say I'm going to write one email. Tell me the points I need to hit in this first welcome email so that I always feel it's like a way to hopefully make a new friend.
Right. Yes. And like I said, the goal is that people know who you are and who you're serving, right? So they've come looking for something. Thank goodness for search engine optimization. They have found your site. For some reason, they've decided to join your email list. So instead of just saying like, hi, this is me, it's like, hi, this is me. If this is what you're looking for, you're in the right place. These are the problems I solve. You don't have to say it like that, but like, hey, if you're here, you're going to find easy meals that you can make for families that don't break the bank. And I'm going to help you do that through meal planning tips, recipe breakdowns, and recipes that use a lot of veggies and aren't heavy on meat, whatever it is that it might be. That's like, oh, this is my domain. This is what I talk about.
Okay. So tell me if this is right. It's a little intro about me and why I might be an expert at this, like meal planning or whatever. And then it is, here's how I can help you. And here's what to expect from me.
Right.
And here are maybe some services or products I provide.
Yeah.
And what am I missing?
I would break that up even into a couple of different emails. So the first one is like, hey, welcome. Here's how I want to help you. And then give them the resources, send them to the blog, send them to your podcast, send them to your YouTube channel, maybe just share like, this is the one video I want to make sure everybody gets, or the one resource that I think would be super helpful for you now that you're here. I work with a lot of food bloggers. So I started out in personal finance, which has its own kind of like evolution as to how you teach things. You can't hit everybody with like all things deductibles or 401ks in one email. But when it comes to food bloggers, it's like people want the recipes. Like drop even if it's your personal favorite 5 recipes, or, these are the 3 most popular recipes on the site, or even introducing them to category pages on your site, like breakfast, entrees, and desserts. Go have at it. Go browse. Go see if something catches your eye. And you're welcoming them in by being really generous with what they would love.
Okay. So let's say I'm sending them to my recipes. Let's say these are my top recipes that like most people, most popular on my site, let's say, or my favorite. And then where am I going from there?
Yeah, you can ask them to respond, reply back with like, what are you most excited about making? Or what's one dish that your family would like, but you need to have it in gluten-free form or something like that. So that's a good way to engage with them. I think having another email that's just like, here are the ways you can engage with me. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a shop with a handful of ebooks, or you can also follow me over on Instagram, right? So you're kind of giving them the opportunity to engage with you on those other platforms. I think one of the things that we misconstrue is that you think, well, everybody's following me on all those places, and they're not, right? So it's cross-selling to those other platforms because you show up in different ways, and then tell them what's happening on Instagram. And then also I always like to include, and here's why you should be opening your emails. I always ask my clients, I'm like, think of this. What do they get from your emails that they can't get anywhere else? And it always sounds super dramatic. You're like, what do I offer? But if you can't really decide that or define that, then how is your reader going to know that they should be opening your emails?
Here's a question. A lot of food blogs look similar. And I've heard people say this to me. I've shared this on the podcast in the past, which is somebody will say, I got this recipe on Pinterest. And it's like, no, actually, you probably clicked on somebody's blog that you've completely forgotten about that looks like a lot of other people's blogs that you will never go back to. So when I've gotten their email address, let's say through my cookbook or some other reason, how do I get them to go, oh, you're not some, pin on Pinterest, you're Jillian. Or you're Allie, and I should pay attention to you rather than, oh, you're just like a dime a dozen.
Right. Well, and that's why the welcome sequence is a tie between, it's an introduction, but it's also giving them that low hanging fruit. Like, what are the recipes that are just like no-brainers for people on your site? Like, that people love them. They always turn out well, because imagine you make that meatloaf for your family. Everyone raves about it. You're going to keep opening Jason's emails.
Mm-hmm.
And you want them to keep opening your emails. So there's that introduction. And what else is in the welcome sequence? This could be when you segment your readers. You could say like, hey, are you a beginner home cook? Or have you been around the block and you're ready just to jump into some recipes? I did that for Pinch of Yum. So if you join their list and you say, I'm a beginner, you get these 5 additional emails that really introduce you to being a home cook. So what are some of the tools you would need? There's a whole other email it's made up of little GIFs of like how to cut up garlic, how to cut up an onion, and it takes you to YouTube so you can learn how to do those things, because they aren't just for the elite blog or, home cooks. They're like, we want you to enjoy cooking and we want you to have the confidence to cook for your family. And how they're living that out is through that nurture sequence that says, here's a leg up. Here's some back pocket recipes. Here's some things you can make with food in the pantry. Just to start building their confidence.
And then, should you be adding a little bit of personality? I don't know, like, and I love hip hop dancing, or I love whatever, or, like just to kind of, I don't know, share something beyond cooking? Or do you think, nobody cares?
So my thoughts on that is like, you can be as fun as you want. I include GIFs all the time in my emails. Like my team will tell me, they're like, Allie, this one doesn't have a GIF. Like, well, people know it came from you. Like, it's like my signature basically. But I think what's really important to keeping people connected with who you are and remembering who you are is to be really clear about what you offer and being really consistent with that. So I don't want you, like, as a food blogger, to also be sharing maybe personal updates once a week on your kid's soccer game, right? Like, you don't want to catch
Nobody
them out of left field.
Nobody
they came
cares.
for food. You can definitely include that, like in a PS of like, hey, if you want to see behind the scenes of us getting rained out at my son's soccer game, click here, and it can go over to Instagram, right? There's something about showing that you're a person, but keep the content focused on whatever that value proposition is that you promise them from the beginning. Like, I'm going to provide you with 30-minute meals that are easy to make, and your whole family will love them.
So I like what you're saying, which is this is a very good time to start segmenting your list. And I like that you're saying, here is what I provide for you. And then do you also want to give them a roadmap? Like, here's what you can expect from me. I will show up in your inbox on Mondays with like a week's worth of recipes or those kinds of things. Like what?
Yeah.
Like,
so at the end of the welcome sequence is usually when I'll offer that up and say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Just so you know, like, you're going to, get new recipes from me twice a week. But on Sundays, you're going to get some links back to some old favorites that I want to make sure you know about, and that's just one sentence at the end of an email. There's a lot of other things you can do. Like, I have a client who allows people to opt in for her RSS feed emails, the ones that go out automatically, where I have other clients who just add people automatically. And within the RSS emails, they can say, nope, I just want the weekly digest option. So this is where you can kind of allow people to choose how much information they want. But yeah, I think making a statement saying, this is what you get on Thursdays, this is what you get on Tuesdays. It doesn't hurt. It helps just kind of set that expectation. And then the reason why I separate welcome and nurture sequences is because of this. Like, if you wanted to segment people and send them into different, a different nurture sequence with different content on different topics, you'd want to be able to do that in your email service platform. So if you're building out an entire automation that has like 18 emails, an active campaign or something, it would make it really hard to be able to parse people out and send them in different directions. So I just set them up as 2 separate automations.
Got it.
One is for the welcome. If they have this, this tag after a week, they go into this automation. If they have this tag, they go into this automation.
So let's talk about nurture sequences and, what your thoughts are about them. Should you have multiple nurture sequences? How many emails should there be in them, and where broadcast emails come in? And broadcast are emails that are not in a sequence. They're like, hey, I'm writing a Happy New Year email to everybody and I just want to send it out.
Yeah. So let's start there. I think one of the ways that makes it so much simpler is just to pick a day of the week that you send your broadcasts, 1 or 2 days, or even more importantly, knowing what days your automations are going out. So we typically, right, when you set it up, they're like, this email goes out 5 days later, and this email goes out 4 days later, and this email goes out 3 days later. And then you're like, I don't know what days people are getting emails from me, right? And that makes you nervous to send an email because you don't want to be a bother. Hello, I'm raising my hand. I'm a woman. I don't want to be a bother. Just like my whole MO, right?
Yes.
And so this helps you get past that. It keeps you from hiding your message because you know when your emails are being sent. So, for instance, I send my broadcast emails, my newsletter, every Thursday. I have my nurture emails go out on Tuesdays. Now, I only have one general nurture sequence. We have options. You don't have to have 16 different nurture sequences or even 2 different ones. I have one. Part of it is my bandwidth to go separate that. I just haven't hit that in my business. Whereas I know the information that I've sent out has been really helpful for people. And I want to make sure that that's continued to be shared with them. So I have 2 different templates that I use in ConvertKit. So on Tuesdays, those are my best of duet emails. Those are like my older content. And in there, they can say, I just want to hear from you, or I only want new content. And if they click that, it just removes them from the nurture sequence. And they'll only hear from me on Thursdays with my brand new content. So, but even if I'm running a campaign like Black Friday or something, I can pause my entire Tuesday sequence, or I can send emails every other day of the week and just skip Tuesday if I want. But that just gives me more freedom to send my message when I want to.
So I've done I totally get the welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to me the difference with the nurture sequence and the broadcast. Like, what am I trying? So let's go back. So you gave the example of Pinch of Yum, which I loved, where, hey, you want to go deep into techniques for the beginning chef. That I get as a nurture sequence. Like, we're going to go down this rabbit hole together. Plus, you're going to get our weekly updates.
Right.
So give me other examples of where I'm running a nurture sequence, and I'm also giving you, say, my newest recipes in my broadcast.
Right. So I guess a nurture sequence can really be anything. The idea is that it would be evergreen and it would be helpful at any time of year. It gets a little tricky with food bloggers who want to do seasonal content. That's like a whole other tech thing. But maybe that's a great example. So your seasonal content should go out as a broadcast, as a newsletter. It goes out once. It's not automated. It's not going to go out again in 6 months without you knowing. Whereas maybe that same food blogger does have some evergreen content, maybe on how to can vegetables or how to freeze herbs or crock pot soups or things you can pop in the oven in 45 minutes and be done. Things that are okay to be sending out all year long. Those are things that you can set up in an automated nurture sequence. The value of that being, one, they're getting recipes from you that are delicious, that will make their lives awesome and easier to provide for their family, but it also sends back traffic to your site. So it keeps you top of mind. It's sending that traffic around year round. Even when I worked in mostly with personal finance clients, when I first got started, a lot of people have this belief of like, well, I created that 2 years ago. What help is that? And I would go, is a budget still helpful now as it was in 2016? And they'd say yes. And
right.
Like,
is the chicken soup recipe, right? Has that
right.
kind of...
And so we somehow downgrade our content for as awesome as it is because we think it's old and that everybody's already seen it. The thing is, tomorrow you're going to get a new subscriber who has no idea that that chicken soup recipe even exists.
Now, I'm going to say
sure that they do.
I'm going to say something very controversial.
Yeah.
Unless you are selling things paying for ConvertKit, paying $100 a month for ConvertKit to get traffic to your blog, to just buy eyeballs, doesn't make sense financially. Now, in certain ways, for example, I've got a sponsored post and I need to get eyeballs on that post. That would make sense to be sending my email subscribers to that sponsored content so that I can go back to that brand and go, oh my God, check out all the people. But if you are making pennies on the dollar for every page view, you have to have an enormous list because email service providers are expensive, which then leads me to this idea of, if this is you, start selling products, because that will make it worth it. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think a lot of the clients that I work with and that I've moved into ConvertKit as well are people who've been blogging 5, 10, 15 years. So they have the big audience, they have the big sponsors, they're already qualified for, Mediavine or Thrive, what's it called? AdThrive. And so in their case, they just want a simpler tool to use. And that's part of it too, is that people will say, well, I want my email platform to pay for itself. And that's
it won't
asking,
in ad revenue. Like
it won't ever, and so part of it is like, that's an investment into running your business. That's a storefront, that's having someone at the front desk to welcome every new person who walks in your shop, so you kind of have to weigh the benefits of that with the cost, and if you're comparing different platforms, ConvertKit moves a lot faster and a lot slicker, and it's better organized than some others that I've seen on the market. However, I think having a product that you can sell that is your proprietary item, you're going to make more money per purchase than you would per eyeball on an ad.
Because this episode is all about email, I'd be remiss not to invite you to join my email list, where I send an email on Sundays where I highlight my 4 biggest takeaways from my most recent podcast episode. So think of it as Cliff Notes or a cheat sheet, so you can stay up to date on what's going on in online business. Plus, I share a little bit about my life and living here in Austin, Texas. To join my list, go to bloggergenius.com. Again, bloggergenius.com. Sign up and you'll hear from me on Sunday. And now back to the show. One thing I would say is make sure that you have optimized those blog posts you are sending people to, say in your welcome series. You've optimized them for revenue. I talk about this a lot. A blog post is not just a blog post. A blog post should be a sales page. There should be a goal attached to that blog post. It could be join my list, buy my affiliate product, buy my own products, go to this, buy, maybe it's sponsored content, go to the sponsor, check out this brand, whatever it is. But a blog post isn't just like, hey, this was fun to write. It needs to, I challenge you to think critically about how to optimize those pages for revenue. And then also how to then make sure your emails are going to those posts where you make money, and see if you can sell in your emails. And even if you're not yet selling something, let people know you sell stuff, that they won't be so surprised when they're getting all this free stuff. And then all of a sudden you go, hey guys, buy my new ebook, my cookbook or whatever. And they go, wait a minute, you're pulling a fast one on me. You always just give me stuff for free.
Right. Oh, isn't that that's the heartbreak of being a blogger? I think that the average reader doesn't realize how much work goes into running a blog. The cost of it, the cost of testing those recipes, the software to make sure that the reader knows about those recipes.
And that you're doing this not because you just love it, but because you're hoping to make money from this. This isn't just a labor of love.
Right. Because I listened to, was it Darren Rouse at a conference? He's a pro blogger out of Australia. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he did a keynote and was talking about how if your passion is so high, but you're not making any money, you're going to burn out. You're like, oh, and now I've made no money. But if you're doing it the other way, where all you're doing is making money and you're not having any passion, kind of like a teeter-totter, or is that's not what it's called. It's called a sea salt. What is it called?
A seesaw?
Seesaw. I call it a sea salt. A seesaw. So if you are making tons of money, but you don't have any passion, then you're going to not have the heart behind the work that you do. And so, my caution is that if it's a labor of love, you do need to be making money off of it so that you can keep doing it.
Stay in the game.
I say this with new business owners. I was like, it is so much more fun when you're actually making money. When you're not worried about how to pay your bills, it's way more fun to offer services to your client, or to write those blog posts, or to try out those new recipes, or to create that ebook, because you're not just digging from an empty well. Like you also need those things to survive.
Absolutely. And email is one of the best ways to sell. So if you have an email list, oh my God, there is money to be had. Like your email list is so much more valuable than your Instagram followers. People are not on Instagram to necessarily buy from you. I mean, they're there to kind of browse. So you have to get them like out of the browsing mindset into, wait, I really want this product. I have to go get my credit card. Like it's a lot. Whereas if I have this personal relationship that I've developed with you, where you do feel like, oh, there's Jillian again. That's cool. Like you would be more, and I'm telling you like, hey, this is a cool thing. You're more apt to purchase it through email. So please don't underestimate the value of email. And this is why I get 1 million emails from the Gap, and Sephora. Like they are hounding me. I think I've only bought like one thing, but they know the power of me being on their list.
Mm-hmm.
So don't underestimate that.
Right. Even with a small list, oh man. I mean, one of the greatest misconceptions of making money from email is that you just have to send one email. Or that's all you feel like you have the gumption for, is to send one sales email. And then you're like, I'm scared to send more. What if people judge me? What if they unsubscribe? And that is I mean, that's part of the game too, right? Like if people have a right to unsubscribe, which means you need to be positioning your product or your solution in a way that is accurate, right? We're not here to dupe people into buying things. But by sending more than one email, you really are catching the people who have questions or they forgot. Like I said, so even with a small list, I have a client that, we sent out like 4 or 5 emails on like a weekend promo, Thursday, I guess through Monday, end of day. And it's that last email is still like 30 to 40% of the people who end up buying coming in at the end. And my clients are always like so surprised because in their world, they're like, I would never send 2 emails in one day. And I was like, this is a really good offer and it's expiring. If we don't tell them, we're also not doing them a service. I think, in the emails, the emails leading up to that are, presenting, here's your problem. Here's how we solve it with this. Next question. What are your FAQs? What's a success story? Those can be other emails as well. And then it's like, hey, today's last day to save $100 on this product. Okay, short and sweet. This expires in 4 hours. Grab it now.
I love that because what you're saying is that you're not selling snake oil. You believe in what you're selling and therefore go shout it from the rooftops. Like this isn't, it isn't like, haha, I tricked you. This is, I'm going to make your life better. And I've been proving it week after week. So I put a little extra energy into this. Like, let's say, so you don't have to go through my blog and find my best recipes. I'm going to bundle them up for Christmas and it's going to be all of my best cookies, and you're like, whoa, like how helpful would that be? Or whatever kind of diet you're on. These are my best tips. Or this is my workshop I'm doing, or this is my something where we can have a more personal relationship. So, but finding, first of all, again, I think it is about letting your audience know you are selling to them and you will be selling to them. And that's a good thing because the solutions that you turn into products are, say, higher quality or more specific. Maybe it's faster, you want to do something, I don't know, I'm going to give you all my hacks or who knows what, but that is really valid, especially if you're this expert wanting to help people.
Right. Well, and it's interesting, the more you niche down, the more possibility there actually is for creating products that solve specific problems. That being like, if you have gluten-free recipes, you could have gluten-free, desserts. And that's pretty specific versus what they would find maybe on another blogger's website. It's not just all desserts. It's like, great, I can go find all desserts on Pinterest. But what you're offering me is really easy gluten-free recipes that only require 2 flours. I'm in. Like, and so you get to kind of own that expertise. What I do for my clients is that we'll do audience research. And it is so stinking fun to hear from my clients' audiences on what they love about them.
So explain how you do this and explain what it means and explain your results.
Yeah. So it's surveying your list. what is it you love about Danny that keeps you opening her emails? Like by asking those
So you're
things,
sending an email with these questions?
with a survey link. And so they can submit it. We usually give them like a time frame and offer some sort of incentive. Actually, I think Danny was it her or another client offered like an actual knife. Like you could win a $150 knife for your kitchen by completing the survey. Like you could get raffled off to win. But what it does is it opens up, oh man, just as a content creator, you get so in the weeds. SEO tells me this. But when you actually ask your audience, what it is they come looking for, what solutions you've provided to them that they love, and that, they're probably telling their friends, like that's the stuff you can include in your welcome emails, in your nurture emails. Like that's that low hanging fruit that is just going to like hit it out of the park because you've asked. And if everyone's coming for gluten-free recipes, you can bet they're probably going to want this pantry checklist to know exactly what's in your pantry. And it's also going to add up to being, what kind of products could these be? What specific problems can we solve with an ebook, with a webinar? But I guess I say that because you might be sitting there thinking like, but what do I sell? And don't be afraid to ask your list. And you can include that survey link if you want in your welcome sequence. Just say, hey, like once a month I raffle off a $20 Amazon gift card. So if you don't mind filling this out, you'd be entered to win.
How many questions do you add? Do you ask?
Usually around 15 or so.
Okay.
Some of it is, very little of it is actually demographic. It might be like, what dietary needs do you have, or something like that. But a lot of it is asking like, what have you tried before? What worked? What didn't? Have you heard about my product? If not, or if you have and you haven't bought it, what questions do you have? Those are the kind of questions we ask. Or this is more for people who've been on your list for a while, but what's the number one thing that you've been able to do or accomplish since being on my email list that you weren't able to do before?
One thing I like about what you're saying is it's a way to actively ask your audience, because a lot of bloggers say to me, I send all these emails once a week religiously and nobody emails me back. I say, to be honest, not that many people respond back to my emails, even though I typically ask questions. So either I love your idea of doing a quiz and incentivizing people with something. I recommend asking maybe 5 questions so that they can do it without really thinking. And if still that's not working, go into Facebook groups in your niche and just read the comments, because I don't know if you've ever done this, but like you will see the same thing show up over and over again. And that way you can see how people are talking about what their problems are.
Exactly. Well, and it's interesting because even though our surveys tend to be long, we've literally had like 1,400 people respond to just one client survey before. And I'm like, what in the world? People are pretty motivated with some incentives. So if you're not offering an incentive, go for short questions too. Or maybe that's something that you include in your welcome sequence. Like, what are the 4 questions you want to ask? Like, what's the number one? Like, what were you looking for when you came across my blog? What are you looking for more of? And then, what's causing you anxiety when it comes to X, Y, or Z? And call it good.
Yeah.
And just
And
say,
something even being very straightforward. If I could help you with something, what would it be? What's one thing?
Yep. Yeah. So, and sometimes that's like understanding flours, gluten-free flours. It's like, great. That information. Well, and that's the stuff that in an in a survey, when you ask your list, like when I do it with clients, it's like those things come up and it's like my clients usually go, oh, I have a resource on that, or I'd be willing to create a 1-page resource on that, or a video. And so it really spurs on these ideas of like, how else can I help my readers? The people that are already super loyal to me and filled out this survey have these questions. What if I was able to answer those questions for people in advance, before they even have those questions? And they're going to feel more comfortable and more aligned with what we're doing.
And a lot of times they are the really basic questions that you think everybody knows.
Right. Exactly.
Like, oh my God, they don't know that. And it's like, no, they don't know that. So a lot of times we've progressed and we forget that the beginners have no idea what we're talking about.
Right. And so, by creating this welcome and nurture sequence, you get to make sure that content, the stuff that will make people feel super welcome, and up to speed with the kind of content you're creating, and part of it is even like we'll do, like I had a Dominican food client, recipe blogger, and it's like, to be honest, I don't know what food I would need in my pantry to make Dominican food. Like it is one email and it's going to solve a lot of problems. And then all of your emails coming forward, I actually have that sauce or I have that spice. So
can I ask you some like quick round questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go.
In a nurture sequence, how many emails do you typically write?
I would say at least 5, but it can go on for as long as you want.
How many of your clients are you creating more than one nurture sequence for?
Honestly, a small percentage.
So most people just have one nurture sequence of maybe 5, if not more emails, but 5 is fine.
5 to 10 is usually what we do. And what we'll do is, because everybody on the list would benefit from the different kind of categories on the blog, we just make sure it goes to everyone. So, but if it was, in some cases we'll have like a how to make Italian pasta kind of as its own like mini course, which you can consider a nurture sequence in its own. That's just really on that topic and people opt in for it versus everyone else who's getting more of the general content that you'll find elsewhere.
GIFs in every email?
I would say probably not, unless it's like really like important to your brand. For me, it's just like half of what I'm communicating is like how to make email more approachable. So GIFs really make things much more lighthearted and fun. But for some of like my food blogging clients, we'll use a GIF of, them waving in a video. And we'll use that as an image, like in the welcome email. You'll see that when you, if you sign up for the Pinch of Yum list, you'll see Lindsay waving. And so there's that. There's videos of like how to cut up strawberries, and it's just the GIF of it. So when you click through, you can get to the whole video or go through to the blog post. But it's really fun to use those as teasers. You don't need to include them in every email, though.
Okay, emojis. What's your thought?
I love emojis. I think it's along the same lines, very branded, only if it feels good for you, even if it performs better, if you're like, no, I'm not a person who uses emojis, like you don't have to convert your entire brand to what's popular necessarily. And you can always just test it out if it feels good for you. So I'll use emojis in the body copy. Sometimes I'll use it in the subject lines as well. So you can just play around with that.
How long are your emails?
Ooh, that depends. For clients, for like our food blogging clients, because they're broken up with like a header and an image and a blurb and a button, it's really kind of easy to scroll by them. And I've learned, probably from being a blog fan myself, is that I kind of want to know what all the options are. Like if you send me one email with one recipe, it's like, okay, thanks. But if you give me 5 and I can open up 5 tabs with 5 new recipes, I feel like I'm in heaven and I didn't have to go find it on Pinterest. So I want to say, yeah, we'll share anywhere from like 3 to 5 recipes like that. But I also have another client. What we'll do is we'll share like, a roundup post, and then we can share individual recipes below that, something like that that's along the same lines. It can look a lot of different ways. Whereas my emails for Duet, they get a little lengthy because I'm mostly teaching or educating in some way. So it can really vary.
So for your own emails, how many links? So I get it. If it's a recipe, I'm a recipe blogger. I'm going to showcase 4 of my recipes. Let's say I've got 4 links to all of my recipes and maybe other links.
Mm-hmm. So in my emails with Duet, for instance, I have an email going out soon that's basically 3 different sections of like, here's what to be, looking forward to in 2023 or things that you can implement. And each one is a different topic. I might link to the same resource twice in that tiny little section.
That was my question, just because from what I have found in my own kind of emails that aren't related to say Catch My Party, but are for MiloTree or MiloTreeCart, I usually link multiple times just to the same place because I don't want people I don't want to offer them a panoply of different options. I want them to be focused. What's your thought?
Right. Yeah, I agree. There are cases where sometimes I'll do a little roundup of like, okay, podcasts from the last quarter or whatever, like this one's for you if you're looking to grow your list. This one's for you if you're curious about building relationships with readers. So I'm not big on like clickbait. I'm just like, click here to find out more. It's like, click here to listen to the episode with Leslie where we talk about this. So in those cases, like, I have some clients where we'll do like a little bulleted list, mostly because it's blog posts for food bloggers are so descriptive. So like, it's not clickbait, it's just the name of the recipe. And if you don't like mushrooms, you're just not going to click on that one, but you're giving them options. So, I mean, if you're going to do something like that, I would just do it sparingly. But, in my case with this upcoming email, I have like these 3 sections. So I'm basically sending them to 3 different places, whichever one suits your fancy. And if you want to open all 3, great. But yeah, I try not to go overboard with too many links. Like that's asking people to invest, like, yeah. How many, more than 3 pages feels like a lot to maybe open up and learn about email marketing versus recipes.
Okay, Allie, if people want to reach out to you, learn more about what you offer, read your emails, like where should they go?
Yeah. So my company is called Duet. It's DUETT.co is the website, but that's where you can join my email list. I have a roundtable every month that's just a live opportunity to hop on a Zoom call with me and chat about email marketing. So we have a different topic, but we also do a little Q&A. That's my way of helping you take the next step forward. A lot of people I learned are just like, they're being held back by one question. Like, can I use an emoji? It's like, let's answer those questions so you can move forward. I want your emails going out to your list for their benefit and your own. So I have that roundtable. I also have a handful of resources like on how to write your first welcome sequence. I've got it step by step laid out. You can find that on my resources page. But that's the best way to reach out to me. And I do check, my email replies. So if you ever have a question in any of my emails, I'm the person. I'm right behind that inbox and I will reply back to you.
I love that. Well, Allie, I have to say, you have validated so much for me about email marketing. I really like it just because it's a way that I feel I get to touch people in a more, I don't know, an intimate sort of, it sounds kind of dirty. I don't mean it that way, but just to build a deeper relationship. And I think it's a very powerful, potentially intimidating way to do this, but I think it is so worth it. So if you're not doing email marketing in 2023, I highly recommend you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Get your message out there. Don't be afraid of what people will think. If they're not a good fit, they'll leave. But how many bloggers are still around? How many people have found their bloggers that they want to follow and have found their audience who are interested in what they want to share? So those people are out there for you too. Go find them.
Well, Allie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I hope you guys like this episode. If you're not building your list, hopefully this episode inspired you to start, but not just that. Hopefully it gave you a framework for how to think about introducing yourself to your new subscribers so that you can build that relationship, so that they'll click on your links and buy your products. I think it is so much more powerful, say, than building a following on Instagram, because people who join your list are inviting you into their inbox. And that's a privilege. And just to wrap up the episode, I invite you to join my email list by going to bloggergenius.com. If you want to join our MiloTreeCart affiliate program, just go to MiloTreeCart.com, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see a link for our affiliate program. And if you want to start selling digital products, but you don't know where to start, book a call with me. We'll get on the phone for 15 minutes. Tell me your goals. I'll give you some tips. And you can do that at MiloTree.com/meet. So we can meet. And I will see you here again next week.